You're listening to Grassroots Communities What Really Matters podcast. My name is Ben Carpenter, and we will be talking with young people across Bristol about what really matters to them. Also, we'll be talking with adults in communities with lived experience and professionals like youth workers about what it's like for young people growing up in our city today. On today's show, we met up with Catherine Rowe, 18 years old, from Bedminster, to talk to her about what really matters. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning.
Oh, feels a bit weirder today. We were just saying about the microphones. We got them right close to our face, so it feels like I got an ice cream in front of me, and I'm definitely not going to start licking it. But do you know what I mean? It feels a little bit weird. But there we go. So yeah, thanks for coming today. Like I said, the podcast, what really matters to you, and the first thing I want to talk about is how did we first meet? In your words, I'd be interested to hear.
Well, my primary school worked with youth moves, and they did a forest school project, and you happened to be running it.
I did indeed.
And then you were starting up Urban Escapes and building the Roundhouse over the summer. And you and one of my teachers decided to try and get me involved.
And how glad am I that we did get you involved? How old were you then? I can't even remember.
I was 9.
9? Blimey. You're making me feel older than I am. And what did you do that? So, because I do remember it. We were doing the forest school stuff, and you showed a particular kind of interest with just getting involved and being interested in having a go at things. And at that point, it seemed quite clear that you'd probably be someone that would be up for building what was basically building your own youth club from nothing with natural resources. At 9 years old, how did that feel? Because it'd be interesting to know.
Well, it was confusing for the first half of the summer because there was a whole mix-up of numbers, and so nothing happened. And then suddenly I was there helping build a roundhouse, and it was all, the walls are made out of hay, and we're creating cement kind of lining for the walls in a bathtub because that's what we had.
Yeah, I mean, I remember. In fact, I've even got a picture vivid in my head. So, like the straw you're on about was just straw bales, wasn't it? So, I mean, we built the platform for it, and we had these things which are basically called henges, aren't they?
Yeah.
Which is, whatever the wooden, the timbers that go upright, which you fit the roof on top. But in between all that, it was like massive Lego, wasn't it?
It was.
And you lot were putting all the straw bales together. Then you were like getting hazel sticks, which were straight, and smashing them through them to hold them together. But the bit about when you were making the clay up, I can't remember. There was loads of people. It was hectic, and it ended up being a bit of a clay fight from memory, mixing it all together with your feet, wasn't it? And then having to slap it on the walls. Like no plastering job you've ever seen before or ever see again. But, I mean, what were you thinking at that point?
Well, I was thinking it was crazy, but I enjoyed it.
Well, that's kind of how it rolls with us, isn't it?
Slightly, yes.
Great. So, what kind of things, when you're growing up in your community, what kind of challenges have you faced at home, out in your community, and positives?
Well, kind of first bit of my life, not really kind of many challenges. But then kind of hit middle of primary school, and my sister became disabled, so I became a young carer and started kind of taking on more responsibility than most young people my age would. But you just learn with it, really, and you're doing more tasks than a normal young person would do, and I found it difficult to fit in with my friends because what they wanted to do, I didn't really see a point in because it had no ending and it had nothing. You wouldn't get anything out of it, and it just seemed irresponsible. And I guess that's kind of one of the downfalls of being a young carer. But
when you say irresponsible, do you mean that because you were looking out for your sister when your mum was at work or when your mum wasn't in, that it felt irresponsible because you had that you had to give that level of support.
Because I knew that there was something that I could be doing with my time that would benefit either my sister or my mum or something at home and kind of make things easier. I didn't see any reason to do what my friends were doing and just go and hang out in the park for a few hours doing nothing.
How do you just, I mean, how do you feel? Do you feel like that's impacted you in any way? As in now, when you look back at that, and like, who knows? It may be the situation you're still doing that. I don't know.
I do still kind of feel a little bit out of place with my generation, where they are still quite happy to just go out and do whatever for all hours of the day. But I also quite enjoy being a bit more kind of grown up than the rest of my generation, because I'm spending my time doing things that I actually care for and have a passion for. And the people that I hang out with and the people that I know are going to stick with me. And because the ones that aren't going to stick with me are the ones that are going to try and just encourage me to do nothing with my time, which just isn't me. It's not what I enjoy anymore.
Well, from the outside looking in, and I mean, we stopped at the Roundhouse when we were explaining our connection, and the connection between us has been a lot longer than that, with various other projects and a million other things that we could talk about. But I mean, to be honest with you, it's always been noticeable that you have acted older than your years, and that there's nothing wrong with any of this, by the way. We're all different, aren't we? Like, there's no right or wrong about how anyone acts.
Yeah.
And I guess maybe, like, from what you've just said then, because of the level of responsibility that you had, and I'm guessing you would have been spending quite a lot of time with your mum.
Yeah.
And maybe mum's friends as well.
Yeah.
So, you could, there's two sides to this, couldn't you? You could say, so maybe you've missed out a bit on your youth and childhood of socialising, but then what you've missed out with there, you've gained with spending time with adults and growing up and being clear on what you want to do, because you are clear on what you want to do, and you do it. Do you know what I mean?
And I've also through it all, I've gained a stronger connection with my family than a lot of people I know, and that I'm very happy for. And a lot of other young carers that I know are also, they have really strong connections with their family, and I wouldn't exchange that for anything.
No, and that's really great to hear. I mean, we never know how many people are going to listen to these things, but I mean, if there is someone listening to this that feels like that they are caring a lot for someone in their family, can you explain what it is they could do to get some support, and maybe what is classified as a young carer? Because I'll be honest, I don't know exactly. I could hazard a guess.
I'm not like 100% certain on the definition of young carer, but it's from all the people I know and things, it's kind of someone who, if you've got a family member or someone that lives with you that's got like a physical or mental disability or ailment that's long term, and you take on tasks that just extra tasks around the house, or getting medications, or popping out to do the groceries for them, those kinds of jobs and things. And also being there for my sister's autistic, so I'm there for her mentally as well as physically. And just kind of taking extra steps to complete extra tasks to help them with their daily life. That kind of counts as being a young carer. And if you're in school, you can talk to a teacher and kind of talk to them about, you possibly think you're a young carer, or you just want some support with things at home, and they will either give you some support at school, either talking to someone or just spending some time with people, or they'll send you to the young carers online number, which you can find online, and they've got sites and emails, and they will help you figure out whether you are a young carer, and even if not, they will help you get support that you do need. So there are ways to find things, and online's a great way of finding them.
Very well explained. One of the reasons why I think you'll be a good youth worker. Anyway, I mean, what we could do as well, if people, if someone's listening to this and they feel like that they may need a little bit of support with stuff that's going on with regards to caring, or anything else, to be honest, even if you message us, we'll make a point of finding out what those numbers are if you can't find them online. Because there is always support out there. And it's just about getting in front of the right people, isn't it? I mean, I wonder whether is it worth explaining a bit more about some of the craziness that we've done through Urban Escape? Because I think it builds a pathway towards what, where you've ended up going. Like, so, I mean, the next question, for example, is what things did you get up to in your community or with friends or clubs and etc. and why? And maybe just start with a couple of things that stand out from this Urban Escape group that was at the Roundhouse for a number of years. Yeah. A few things that stand out for you.
Well, for the first couple of years, I kind of mainly focused on urban escapes, and we did a lot of random things. Like we did beehives and we learned about different cultures, and we made solar panels, which I think I ended up going home with about 9 different burns on my hands that day, but still fun and still functional. So
they still work now, apparently.
Apparently it's still functional, so I'll take it. And then kind of a couple of years in, I started doing other things with other groups and things with youth moves, and I started doing youth opinions. I've always been very opinionated, and so youth opinions was a good way to help me kind of gain others' opinions and put my opinions into youth moves and how they can improve youth groups and access a wider range of young people and help those who do need it.
So, I mean, that's interesting, and I'm going to come back to that little beauty in a moment. I just one little story that I want to slip in there, and I always stitch you up with this, but it feels like it's a memorable thing for me. And I've worked with a lot of young people, so there's quite a lot of memorable things. The moment when we were doing the project, and I can't remember the name of the residential home, but it was in Engrove, and it was for young people with dementia. Not young people, adults with dementia. And one of the young people that was in Urban Escape, I think her gran was...
yes, her gran.
Rosedale, that was it. Rosedale Residential Home. Blimey, my memory's good. That's good. And we come up with a project, didn't we, where you were thinking of... I mean, I'm mixing the two things together, but
No, it was all one big project.
It was one thing, wasn't it? You were coming up with ideas of food that could invigorate memories. And like stuff like turmeric's meant to help with memories, wasn't it? And you like
we cooked stuff with turmerics, and we barbecued bananas for some reason.
There was stuff like, I don't know, you were making smoothies with various stuff like mint and God knows what. But there was all these things which apparently help with memory, and it was an absolutely. One of the moments was amazing was when you done the fun day at the residential home where it's all about living for the moment, and you lot all chose a load of tunes that from your generation and dances from your generation, and all the adults that were there. And let's be honest, some of them couldn't remember their own name, and then for them to stand up, and it was crazy, wasn't it? That they could remember songs, dance, and music. So it must touch on different parts of your brain. And they were there singing and dancing, doing their stuff. You lot were joining in. Then you were doing your dances. Someone was rapping. There was loads of stuff going on. But the bit that I will never forget, we were at the Roundhouse, and maybe I'm telling it like it's a mythical story, but it really felt like it was.
It was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago, but it was a moment. We had a lot of people, the residents from the residential home that had come to the Roundhouse. And you guys had cooked a load of food for them from stuff that we'd grown at the Roundhouse. And like you said, a lot of the adults that are there, they'd ask your name and then they'd forget it straight away. It's the nature of dementia. Yeah. And one of the things that the lady that was leading that group said that they do remember songs. So I cheekily thought, we'll put it out there, right then you lot, to the young people, who's singing? One of you thinking that you're all going to tell me to run and jump. And then I heard a little voice. Well, I could sing. Stuttering, worried about what was going to happen next, but I've never sung in front of anyone. And that moment when you sung, oh my, I nearly said God, but gosh, do you know what I mean? It's like, you've got a hell of a voice. And then you were singing with the older people, and I love music, and that moment really made me see how music brings people together in an amazing way. How did that make you feel? 'Cause that's the first time you sang, wasn't it?
Yeah, I not gonna lie, I hated it at the moment, and then kind of I only really said anything because I felt bad, because I was like, well, I knew these people kind of recognize music, and I read a few things beforehand about how music can help with dementia and things, and I felt bad because it seemed like no one was going to put themselves forward, and I was like, well, why not? I might regret it. And then I kind of stood on the balcony with, I can't remember her name, and I think we stood Stand By Me. It might have been wrong.
Yeah.
And just seeing the old people and like actually seeing them watching me, it was terrifying because I've never sung on my own in front of people with them looking directly at me. But it was lovely to see them all engaging in something when they couldn't remember some of their family half the time.
I'm telling you, everyone that was there was like, because it come out of nowhere, we're like, oh my word, this we weren't expecting this, and it was brilliant. I mean, and if you have the opportunity and you do somehow pursue it, maybe that might come into something we talk about in a bit, because it could do. Do you know what I mean? You have a hell of a voice, and if it's something you enjoy, there's no doubt it helps with well-being, doesn't it? It helps with your own well-being, let alone other people listening to it, enjoying it. Anyway, sorry, I thought I'd try and stitch you up with that, but it's not a stitch up. It was brilliant, and that's the truth of the matter. I mean, what other things? So the stuff that you do in your community now, like I remember you were going off and, like you said, you were always saying yes to things, and this is something that seems to feed into some of the others that we've spoken to, is that people that are, open to saying yes to opportunities are the ones that generally maybe end up getting the opportunities that they want, that they're passionate about. Like, there was a few things. So things like you went off and done the British Explorer Society thing. I mean, how did that work? You had said something about it earlier. I couldn't remember how it happened. What was that?
So I always had an interest in traveling. I traveled a lot in secondary school. I'd been to multiple places and loved just exploring different cultures and things. And you told me about British Exploring Society, went, well, now you're out of school, have a look at this. I had a look, and there was 2 weeks left on the Scotland Highlands trip, and I decided to put my name in for it and kind of apply. Didn't think I'd get it. And then they messaged me 2 days later going, we've got a training weekend next week. Come down to Birmingham. So went down to Birmingham, had none of the kit. They helped me get the kit. And so I learned how to pack my bag. I learned how to do safety things in a canoe. I learned how to use a radio and compass and map and all the things that we needed to wild camp. And then about a month and a half later, I'm in Scotland. And I'd forgotten to tell you about it, and then you messaged me going, can you get involved in this? And asked me if I'd heard anything about British Exploring. And I said, well, I'm going there and I'm going to be there in about an hour and a half. So I'll message you about the other thing in 2 weeks when I get back. And I was off for 2 weeks in Scotland, and we climbed Ben Lawes and got absolutely soaked.
Can you just say, because I mean, I absolutely believe in the impact of nature, not on young people, on everyone, on people in general. And I guess once you start feeling those things in yourself, it doesn't mean that you're then listening to people crapping on about the same, and it's just words. When you feel those things yourself, then you start kind of recognizing the effects that it can have on you. Can you explain the feeling that you got, or what you got out of doing that exploration? So
before, I'd had about a year and a half break from traveling at all, and hadn't really gone out due to COVID and starting college and things. And then I went and I switched. I couldn't have my phone. I wasn't around my family. I had no way to contact them, and I never wild camped, and we were literally carrying everything we needed and everything we had on our backs and walking miles every day. And the first couple of days I very much disliked it, because to me, I'd never gone wild camping. I was in a tiny tent with midges everywhere.
Oh no, not that so many. Blimey now. I could tell you some stories about them, but I won't. Go on,
Horrible. But then a couple days in, and we are like up a mountain, and we are swimming in this little lake up a mountain, and I get out, and I'm literally in just a swimsuit. And for about 5 seconds, I'm freezing cold. And then all of a sudden, I'm so calm and weirdly warm, 900 meters above sea level.
What do you think that was? Why
I think it was just because I'd been in the freezing cold water. So I got out and it was just a different...
Oh, so it's warmer out. The temperature was warmer, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And then, it was just switching off from social media and all the different aspects from life, and just you're literally stuck with the same. I think I had 8 other people in my what they called fires, and I was stuck with them for 2 weeks. But we are so close nowadays, and we live all over the UK. One of them lives in Ireland, and we still message like every week. And it's so, I don't know how to describe it. It's just so calming, but also like exciting and thrilling.
And what you're talking about there as well, like it's building your bonds and relationships with people with a shared experience, and those kind of things. They can last forever. And how that is not part of a curriculum where everyone should have to do it is beyond me. But thank you for sharing. One other thing then, because we are going on a little bit because you've done so much, but I mean, I'm not even touching on half the things you've done. I think it's interesting to other people, because I remember, again, it's one of those things. I'd say there's these opportunities, and it was down to you to chase them up, and it was down to you to apply, and it wasn't like I was running around doing it all for you, because that isn't how I roll. It needs people to show their own initiative and go forward for these kind of things. And one of the other things was the youth council. So, let's put it out there straight. You ain't from a rich, affluent background. You're from your everyday person from Bedminster. Do you know what I mean? That one parent family, normal family. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ups and downs, all the rest of it. And the opportunity of the youth council was coming up, where people were being invited to go for it. And again, I thought, well, I just mention it and see what she says. So, what was your experience at the youth council? And we haven't spoke about this massively before, but what was your experiences of the youth council? Yeah.
Well, I did the whole application process, and that was terrifying, because how it works is you put your name in, and then young people vote for you, but they have to do that in school. And I was in year 10, I think, no, year 9. And I literally went in school one day, and they were like, we had to make videos on our campaigns and what we kind of wanted to represent for young people. Yeah. And I did mental health and young carers. And I literally went in school, and people are going, I saw your video.
That's got to be really daunting.
It was terrifying. Every student has to see these videos. Wow. So I have every student just shouting at me at one point or another something about my video. And half of them have voted for me because they figured she's in our school, why not? And half of them have gone, I didn't vote for you, la da da. And I'm just stood there, and I'm terrified, because I'm like, I don't know half the kids in my school. And they all suddenly know me. But I figured, when I heard about it, I figured, why not? So I was like, well, I decided to do this, so part and parcel. And then I got in, and just kind of, it's young people from all over Bristol, and there's 32 of us. So
what's the makeup? I mean, I know, traditionally, it's generally, and I think it's fair to say this, traditionally it has generally been young people from more affluent backgrounds, which is no right or wrong. Everyone, we're all human, and everyone deserves opportunity. But I mean, has that changed a bit?
I think that was one of the good things about the youth council, is that each section of Bristol, so South Bristol got a certain amount of young people that they had to be from South Bristol.
Right.
Central and East had a certain amount of young people, and then North Bristol had a certain amount of young people. And if they couldn't make up those numbers, they'd get representatives from youth clubs or someone who would be willing to do it without getting voted in from those areas, just to ensure that they had an equality from all over Bristol.
Right, yeah.
And they also had kind of members that didn't need to get voted in from LPW and a couple of other places that kind of dealt with disabled kids and disadvantaged kids and kids from like the LGBTQ community and things like that.
Yeah.
And so it was very much equal in those sorts of aspects. And that was one of the great things I found about it. But it was, the youth council's amazing, and the premise of it is really good, getting young people's views and things heard and worked on truly with the backing of young people and with the backing of the council.
Well, let me just dip in, because the next question, and this feels like it links in with that, is about, do you feel like you've had your voice heard? And that could be at home, could be at school, college, communities, clubs, or whatever, or in the world. So, like continuing with what you're saying, yeah.
So going on with Ben's question, I did get heard, but the youth council as a whole didn't particularly hear a lot of the opinions of all young people throughout Bristol. So we did, obviously everyone got voted in, and we all made our campaign videos, and we all had certain things we wanted to work on, but I didn't hear of a lot of surveys and things going out to young people throughout Bristol, and a lot of consultations with young people from different communities to find out what they want, because the point of the youth council is we represent what everyone else wants. And a lot of the time we were focusing on what we wanted as groups and things, which worked because a lot of us wanted the same things as other young people, but we could never be 100% sure. And so that needs to be improved, if I'm being honest. They need to do a few more surveys and get, a lot of young people don't know that the youth council exists. So,
and how could you change that? Because I mean, my view on, like, there's lots of different outlets for promoting things now. Do you know what I mean? And let's be honest, a lot of those outlets young people are pretty good on.
Yeah.
Is it about promoting what it is, and so is it about promoting what it is, and in a way making sure it's developed so it's something that matters to young people? Because
it's both of those. It's the youth council need to take more steps to actually use their social medias and like do consultations with schools and youth clubs, and schools and youth clubs need to take those steps to get young people to know about it and know that there is a way for their voices to be heard. Because actually the youth council, if a young person was to message them or email them and kind of get in contact and say, like, I want this to be heard, but I don't want to be the one to say it, then the youth council would work out a way to get that heard if they felt if it was backed up by other young people. It's just young people don't know about it. So,
well, I mean, we said something as we were walking in here today, wasn't it? And we were just like briefly chatting about it, 'cause I said that we're going to be talking to someone else from the youth council, and I remembered that you're in the youth council. And you mentioned something that it just seemed really interesting, to be honest, to me, about a way that it could be improved. And I think you were talking more about the fact that within the council and within decision makers across the city, there's a hierarchy of those decision makers that are adults.
Yeah.
And then you've got layers of youth council for Bristol City Council, then you've got youth projects across the city and maybe school councils and different things. But there is what sounds like is really simple, I don't see it necessarily happening. And do you want to explain it?
So I mentioned to Ben, we did another kind of, I think he called it Conversations in Nature. And, pardon me. And I was saying how young people their voices should be heard, but so should kind of the older generations. And they should be having those conversations together, because otherwise there is this gap where misunderstandings happen. And actually, if that gap is there, the older generations and the younger generations won't actually think about the impact on the other generation of what they want to happen. And they will be like, this should happen and this is why it should happen, and not think about the impact.
You got me going now.
And so, yeah, these conversations should be happening with older generations and younger generations together, because that's how you're going to come up with the best solutions. Because if you have those conversations separately, we rely on other people to kind of mash them together and create a good solution. But if
there's more to that as well, I think, and it does seem like so straightforward in the idea. But the reality is, as well as I do, we all share this planet and this world together.
Yeah.
And there's some people of a certain age that have got their whole life ahead of them. And there's some people of another age at the other end of the scale that don't have so long together. But we all have views and we all have opinions and we all have ideas. Now, together, shaping that surely makes more sense than people doing it on their own, believing that they have the power. And I think actually this is probably what it comes down to, isn't it? It's people that relinquishing the power a little bit, leaving their ego at the door and appreciating that we've all got something to offer. And every time I do this with young people, which is all the time, because I learned a long time ago, it ain't about what I want, it's about what young people can do. And then you get the real creativity of what comes out of everyone, because everyone has got different ideas.
Yeah.
But just having those discussions, Catherine, like, you've been involved in enough things to know that the discussions are great, but what needs to happen after the discussions?
The actions need to actually happen.
Exactly. And that's the thing that needs to be pushed. And I wasn't going to talk about this particularly, but I tell you what, I'm so glad that whatever the stars have aligned, and for whatever reason, you are at a time in your life where you've just finished one course and you're looking for someone else, and you're going to be doing the Grassroots Activators program, the GAP program.
Yeah.
Because that program is like action on rocket fuel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you would have done some of the little bits within it. You wouldn't have done a lot of it.
Yeah.
But the point being that at every turn, one turn you learn stuff, the next term, action.
Yeah.
Another term you learn a load more stuff, the next term, action. And it is about that, turning those views and ideas and the consultation and the discussions into action. And I don't know what's going to come from it. All I know is that you lot and whoever else is doing it will create some amazing things that the likes of me and other people and decision makers never would have thought of. So, I mean, hopefully there might be a few people actually that are decision makers that are listening to this. And that's the point, isn't it? It's actions. Actions speak louder than words. But the words need to start the process. Sorry, I got on my soapbox. Okay, so this can be, this can go in whatever angle you want. And this is the real reason for this podcast, to be totally honest, Catherine. It's like, really, we're hoping that this is a platform for young people to be able to share what really matters to them.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what it is. Now, I know for a fact that you haven't seen, actually, you've just seen it just before we started. So it's not like you've had time to come up with any like mind-boggling, amazing idea. But whatever you say, if it matters to you, that's all that matters. So what really matters to you and why?
Well, kind of my home life, I guess. My mum and my sister, they really matter to me, and my relationships with them, and all my pets at home, because I love them, obviously. And actually they help a lot with mine and my sister's mental health, and they just bring our family together. Outside of home, I care, what matters to me is my friends and the things that I work on. So it was my college course, and I finished that now, and I'm moving on to the GAP project in September. So that matters to me. It mattered to me when I kind of talked to you a couple of years ago matters to me now.
Can I say something as well quickly with that? Because this, I think, is something that, again, if anyone's listening to it, the trouble is when you put something on a bit of paper and you write something down, it will get interpreted in different ways. So, for example, right, young people that can get involved in GAP, 16 to 25-year-olds, but we have to use these crappy words which don't sound very nice when you say from a marginalised community. Now, it's horrible, isn't it? But you've got to say a word to somehow, so it's getting to people that necessarily don't have the same opportunities as people that come from more affluent backgrounds. You said to me, like, granted, and a lot of other people have said to me, I'm not marginalised.
Yeah.
And that's the issue, isn't it? That people, everyday people. And that's the thing. But if I just said everyday people, I don't know if people from...
You don't know if you get the crowd that you're looking for, the kind of your targeted community.
And it's not any type of crowd, is it? All you got to do is live in a community that maybe doesn't have the same kind of opportunities and wealth of opportunities as other communities do in the city. And we all know who they are. But you deserve this. And I ain't going into the reasons why you deserve it. You deserve it and you're going to be great. Sorry. What really matters?
I don't know. The GAP project really matters. And
I don't know. I said to you, right? Because we don't need to labour on the fact. We've been saying to other people that have been doing this podcast, just saying at the end of it, like, if you could ask for something from someone that might be listening to, something that you want in the world, or you want in your life, or something that means something to you, what would that ask be? Everyone's has been like very different. There ain't no right or wrong.
See, I don't know, because I have no idea where, like, I have kind of a small idea that I want to go into youth work, but I want to work with young people working outdoors and get young people outdoors so that they can live a lifestyle where the outdoors plays a big part, because it's so beneficial to everybody. But I don't know exactly how I want to go down the road, so I don't know what I'd ask for. I just ask, I guess, for that support in my back pocket, and that there are ways to get support to kind of help me along the way, kind of finding how I want to go about that. Because the GAP project is it's a unique thing, and no one's ever, not that I've seen, ever done something like it. And it happened because I wasn't sure where I wanted to go, but I thought I wanted to go into youth work, and so you helped me. And I plan on using this to kind of help figure out how I want to go into youth work in the outdoors. But I'm not sure what to ask for, really.
Do you know what? I mean, you saying that it reminds me of the journey of all this stuff and how it happens. Like the truth of it, and it was even, we're in the tobacco factory, aren't we now? Like, it was down there in the pub bit. And it must have been 3 or 4 years ago. I can't remember how long.
I think it was a couple of years ago, because it was just before I started college.
Yeah. So you said to me, didn't you? You was like, I want to be a youth worker, Ben, but I don't know how to do it. Can you help in some way? And at that time, I remember saying to you, right, have a look online. I have a look online. I'll get hold of Tina Bond, who's South Bristol City Council lead youth worker. I'll speak to a few people that I know, and let's see what happens. And I was thinking along the lines of like the kind of journey that I've been on, like level 2, level 3, whatever. And some people end up doing a degree if that's what they want, or whatever. But at that time, there wasn't. No, there wasn't anything. And I couldn't believe it. Like the things that you hear coming out of the council of young people being a priority and stuff like that, which is great, being a priority in our city. But then thinking that young people from the communities, that we're talking about that maybe need more support than others, didn't have a pathway for young people that want to make a difference in their community to do that. You, really, I'm looking at you now and like, this is the truth. You are the reason why the journey of developing GAP started, because there wasn't a pathway at the time.
Yeah.
Now, and I know that that's changing now, but all I can say to you is there is a clear difference between GAP and other courses that I've seen. And that's not to say that those other courses aren't good and valuable, because they are, but they're different.
Yeah.
And the real thing is that you're going to get from this, you are going to get a toolkit the size of this room with practical, creative skills that you will be able to utilize in any setting with people. That might be in education, it might be in youth work, it could be nature-based stuff, it doesn't matter. And at the end of it, the opportunities that you get is going to be based on your passion. Now, Catherine, if you're telling me here your ask is that you want to work with young people in the outdoors, you know I'm not full of BS, right? And I'm telling you, I'm here, and somehow there will be a way. And I mean, maybe that's the point, isn't it? If other people are listening to this, there is always a way, isn't there?
Yeah.
And what would you say? What would you say is the key thing? Like, if to anyone that's listening to this, it's a young person that has a passion that they want to kind of work towards and they don't know how, could you give them a quick kind of answer about what they could do to make these things happen?
Well,
stitch up again. Sorry.
Yeah, thanks, Ben.
No problem.
First off, if you know what you want to happen, look up what there already is. If you can't find anything either near you or at all, look into who would be in charge of that, either your council or some form of authority, and then just get onto them and hound them until something is done. And because I hear it all the time nowadays, but you've got to be the change you want to see.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying you're not saying that won't come from me, but I definitely use it all the time. Anyway.
You do. But yeah, you've got to be the change you want to see. And so, yeah, just get on to people. If you can't find anything, get on to who's in charge and get them to do something about it. Either they can help you access what there already is, whether that's near or far, or they can help you build something that can benefit you and other young people or other people generally.
Yeah, I mean, and that's it. And the key to this, and to be honest, again, everyone has different stories and things to say on this note, but I think the real key is don't give up. Like if I look at, I know I'm only one person and whatever, and I don't come from an affluent background, do you know what I mean? But the one thing that I can see actually that has made a few things happen over time is not giving up. That there is always a way, and all right, things don't run smoothly a lot of the time, and there's lots of challenges. But when you look back at those challenges, they're actually the things that have gone wrong that you've learnt from. They're the things that really help shape the next things you do.
Yeah.
So don't worry about going wrong. Don't give up, and there's always try and reach out for others if you need support.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people out there are willing to help. And it's just trying to get in touch with them. But, okay. Well, I think that's us for today, but I can't wait to getting GAP going. If other people want to get involved in it, 16 to 25-year-olds, get in touch. And, speak to you soon. Bye. If you're a young person and you've listened to today's show or any of the other What Really Matters podcasts, and you want to get your voice heard, please do get in touch and let's talk to you about what really matters to you.